Peter, we're here in Strawberry Studios, the place you developed, you built up over many years.
Yes.
In Stockport, centre of Stockport. You were not originally from Stockport, you were born in Manchester, I know that much.
Yeah.
When did you actually come to Stockport?
I was about 7 years old. Moved from Rusholme to Stockport. Cleveland Road in Eaton Moor, very posh, very posh.
Very nice. Was that your family moved to Stockport, your parents?
Yeah.
So you grew up in Stockport really from the age of 7 onwards, okay. And went to school, I presume?
Yeah, went to school. It's true.
Which school did you?
Severian College. Severian in Fallowfield, isn't it? Was originally the prep school, and then the Severian College, which is in Rusholme, isn't it?
So at some point in your formative years, I'm guessing that music became very central to your life.
Yes.
Was that quite early on?
Yes, I started playing piano when I was piano lessons. I would have been about 5 years old. Piano teacher lived in Scarisbrick Road, Leamington. The piano teacher lived at the top. I thought she was quite old, but she was probably quite young. And it was all chords and all that, and might as well say I found it very boring. And I said, oh, it's very boring this. I said, can't you play any different stuff? Like Boogie Woogie was a big thing for that. Well, so I may be 5, 6 at that time. And she said, oh, if you want to play like this, you mean like this? And she started doing these amazing piano riffs and boogie, and I thought, right, okay, fair enough. I carried on playing lessons.
So that got your interest, and you weren't just piano, you played guitar as well.
I started the guitar when I was 12, I think, 11 or 12. So I wanted to play the guitar, and I took lessons at a place in Stockport on Oxford Road, not Johnny Roadhouse, the other place further up, I can't remember what it's called. Because I saw, when a holiday in North Wales, Pwllheli, I stayed at this hotel, and they had a dance hall near it, attached to the hotel, and they had a guy playing, and it was probably electric guitar, and I was absolutely fascinated. Well, I wanted to look around and play guitar. So I started learning, and as Severian, we started groups with my friends in there, and that was it. I started playing, skiffle, that's right, rock and skiffle. You know, Lonnie Donegan. But if it hadn't been for him, God knows, a lot of people wouldn't have bothered.
That's probably true of a lot of bands, isn't
absolutely. Every band will tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
Every single guy will say, skiffle. Suddenly you could do it. You could make music, and you didn't need fancy equipment and everything. It was great. Acoustic guitar, T-chest bass. You didn't need drums or anything.
Look how many bands there were, even in Manchester,
Oh, loads and loads. And they progressed to then rock and roll.
So at some point, I believe you went into the Merchant Navy.
Yes.
And disappeared from Stockport for 2 or 3 years, possibly?
Well, no, not Merchant. No, I was having a Merchant Navy for probably about 6, 7 months, and I got fed up of going to the same place again. So I came back to Stockport, but I didn't get a job, I think, furniture in Eccles, so I wasn't really based in Stockport, you know what I mean? Then I transferred to a furniture shop in Underbank, and that was really where I was based from there on. And that's where Neil and Hardy's was there. I used to go in, and there was a little, well, not a real studio upstairs, a couple of tape recorders. And
so you went into Neil and Hardy's before you took it over, so you had experience of working there, or?
No, just, I wasn't actually working there. Actually in the studio, it didn't charge us.
So you recorded?
We recorded. There was a couple of T-acts and nothing fancy, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. I had a friend of my best friend, Bob Morton, he played the guitar, so then John Brown, we started to play, they've still got the tracks, still got the acetates are made.
Have you? Oh,
yeah.
We need to get those on eBay.
No, I want a lot more.
No. But you had experienced the London recording studios because you'd worked for Brian Epstein for a while, hadn't you?
Yeah.
So obviously in Neil and Hardy's studio would have been very basic and...
Oh yes.
But there must have been a spark in you about the possibility of owning a studio.
Yeah.
Had that come from your time in the London studios, do you think?
It was a bit of both, because from band progressed from the skiffle group into a group called the Steel Tones, with a singer who was a spitting image of Elvis Presley. Well, he thought he was. Actually, he did actually look at the photographs, he looked a bit like him. And then we went to, when he packed up, we went to the park, became the Park House 6, which was 2 saxophones, which was very unusual at that time. And we were the first group to have a coloured saxophone player in Manchester called Gilbert. And the great story is, we had one sax player called Graham Atwood, tenor player. And he turned up where we were rehearsing this pub in, I can't remember, somewhere near Johnny Roadhouses. And he comes, he said, I've got the new sax player, I'd like to come and have a go with us. I said, all right. And this guy walked in, big Gilbert, coloured guy with a massive baritone sax, big thing. And he just started taking lessons. And he couldn't play anything really, he was just learning. But when he blew in it, the open note was, I think it was E flat, I might be wrong, which happened to be we always opened up with a rocked up version of In the Mood, the Glenn Miller one, which went da 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 da, bum, and that note was an open note and a baritone, and he used to step forward and go brr, and then he mimed the whole sets to play. He went down a storm with the girls. No one had seen anything like that before. And he started playing, he became a really good player. And that was a band, we travelled all over the place. And I met Eric and then it packed up really, because we had to get proper jobs according to our parents. Oh, blimey. And then I started to get more interested in the studio, because when I worked for Brian Epstein, sort of told me for the Coulters and the Beatles and all that, I spent a lot of time at Abbey Road. And it struck me that it's all right being a group with a hit record, two records. But you're only as good as your last record. But you've always got to make a record. You've got to record them somewhere. So I thought, that's an idea. Nobody in Stockport to record it. Let's have a studio in Stockport. Because I knew so many musicians in Stockport. At least they might come and do the demos, and that's how it started. You know.
So you took over the Neild and Hardys, so you bought them out eventually.
Yes, bought them out. Yeah.
And so this was about 67.
67, yeah.
And you changed it, gave it its name, in fact. You called it Intercity Studios, which I'm assuming is something to do with the British Rail advert of the time, because Intercity had just launched the previous year, correct, I think. Yeah. So what was that about? Was that just a kind of...
You know, Intercity, and we're going to record a studio in each city, so Intercity, go record that city. Very, very ambitious.
You were thinking of setting up a studio in each of the station stops?
More or less.
Yeah.
But that never happened.
But then, well, you started with Stockport and developed that one.
So we lived in Stockport. I wasn't going to have it anywhere else. There's no way. There's no way. Because I like Stockport. It was great. I mean, it's great town then. And a lot of my friends live in Stockport. But people in the first band all lived in Stockport. And Graham lived in Stockport. Lots of us did. You know, there's no way. Manchester was somewhere you went at night. You know what I mean? And played. There's a lot of clubs in Manchester, obviously. The Oasis, and there was quite a lot in Stockport. Played them as well. And we played Liverpool and all sorts of places.
So 67, you take over.
Yeah.
Call it Intercity. Yeah. And mainly demos, I'm presuming, and local bands.
Yeah, local bands.
I know Paul Young, later of Sad Cafe, came in, recorded.
That's right, and Barclay James Harvest. They recorded there. It was one of the first things.
There is a great story about Barclay James Harvest, because obviously the studio was above the Neild and Hardy record store, so big shop window on the ground floor. Big shop window with all pianos in it. And Barclay James Harvest, of course, famous for having a Mellotron. Mellotron, yeah. But I believe they couldn't get it up the stairs to the studio. So bad enough getting out of the van, they never get up the stairs. So just plonked it in the shop window, ran the cables up. Absolutely. And the keyboard player would sit in the shop window playing. The passers-by must have loved that. Yeah, it's great. You know, we kind of think about it. We just put a 2-core cable into the output at the back of the Mellotron, like you'd have had headphones, cable all the way up 2 flights of stairs, and into, well, not really a mixing desk, it was all a load of compressor TX. How we got a sound out of it, I have no idea. But we did. And all the vocals, and Barclay James Harvey, obviously, you know, they recorded everything with us from there on. And I presume Eric Stewart would have been in, not recording with the Mindbenders, but doing demos possibly.
Demos, yeah.
And Graham as well, Graham Gouldman.
Yeah. He came and doing his demos. There's nowhere else to do them, and I actually bought an acetate machine, the record. They cut the discs, right? Big thing like that was very dangerous in a back room, and you play the tape recorder, and you put this needle, and it was put in making the master disc basically. And the stuff that came off the acetate was highly inflammable, and you used to put it in the tins that the disc came in. And I thought, I can't leave this there. You should take it home with me in the garden and throw a match into it like that. No way today would you got away with that. No way, got away with it.
Well, we'll come to that in a minute. We'll come to that in a minute. But so you're there for about 18 months above Neil, called into City.
Yeah.
But at some point in '68, you start to think that perhaps you need some more investment to make the studio better. But you turn to people you know. And the first person you turn to is Eric Stewart. Of course, famous for being in the Mindbenders, big local star, I presume. And you persuaded him to invest. Now, I think he was very like-minded to yourself. He loved the idea of having a studio away from London.
Because he used to hate it in London because, well, nobody really liked it, to be quite honest. But in the studios, there were all guys with white coats, and they were never let into the control room to listen. The groups very rarely could get up, including the Beatles. Really weird. I got up there, it was all right because I wasn't in the group. I was just sit at the back, and then occasionally they did come up, but they had speakers down in the. But the control room was always outward bound. Guys in white coats, everything. It was so boring, boring, and we thought, no, we're not having that. And suddenly, I wanted to come up with the ideas. And Eric, I'd known Eric for a while actually in the groups he was in, and he came in and did some demo. He lived in Offerton, Eric, and I was doing demos, and it just came up and I said, I've got a chance to buy all this. Do you want to come in? I'd bought it then, but I've got to buy more of it. I was running it, I was paying a rent. I said, I've got a chance to buy the whole thing. And he said, yeah, right. Straight away he was in like a shot, because the Mindbenders had virtually finished by then.
They brought Graham in at the very end of the Mindbenders, which didn't particularly work. I went on one gig with them, because I said, I'll come with you. So yeah, great, you come with us. I ended up driving a bloody van all the way back. Well, it took it in turns, to be honest. You know, some stories of van driving, especially with the Dakoters, and great stories. That you won't tell us. But
well, the one funny one was with the Beatles, Dakoters, and the guy who used to, what was he, Screaming Lord Such, that's right, coming back from a gig in Brighton, and it was foggy, and this roadie Screaming Lord Such said, I know the way, follow me. And we got it so we couldn't go anywhere. I remember going over this bump, and I think Billy J was driving at that time, because you take it in turns, and the Beatles, some were in the car, and some were, I can't remember, it must have been one of them, in a couple of them. And we stopped, and we couldn't see a thing. And then when I fallen asleep, and there was a banging on the door. We'd only gone into the bloody roundabout, massive roundabout. I can't, you know, the roads from Brighton. But there's a 3-man park like that. Police saw the funny side of it. I didn't true that. I said, where are we? You know, on a roundabout. He knew the way, yeah, really did.
So, Eric's in with you now.
Yep.
And we'll come on to why you didn't stay above Neil and Hardy's in a minute. But just before that changes, I think you invited Graham Gouldman to come in as well.
Yeah.
Again, you'd known him presumably for a while.
Oh yeah, he used to do all his demos there, and I remember walking out once out of the studio, went round to record his cars, parked round the corner, and he had I asked him, I think it was a white convertible Aston Martin, and I thought, there's something in this songwriting mark, isn't there? I mean, no. But he wasn't big-headed or anything about it. He didn't throw his money up and anything. He was great, Graham, you know, really good. And
so he was happy to invest in, because again, I presume he liked the idea of a local studio.
Oh yeah. We Because then the ideas were starting to flow then.
But it's just at that point, just as you brought Eric and Graham in, that Neil and Hardy's drop a bombshell on you, maybe alerted to the fact that you were perhaps about to blow them up with your acetate machine. But there's two different stories. One is that they wanted to expand and use the upstairs for a shop, which they eventually did. The other one is that you were considered to be a fire risk, because next door to Neil and Hardy's was Underbank Hall. So either of those could be correct, but basically you had to get out.
You had to get out, and we just called the studio Strawberry at that point.
So you just changed its name, okay. And the story is, and you can tell me if this is true, that when there's various things, so you wanted something that was a bit more modern than Intercity.
A bit more catchy,
And the Beatles had just started Apple. So you probably wanted something similar-ish.
Yeah, we like the idea of Apple's, they just got Apple, when they did a studio, Apple. And there was Pineapple Dance Studios, and someone else Fruity Fruit. And it was Eric came up with it. He said, "Oh, Beatles' favourite song of Eric's was Strawberry Fields Forever." I said, "Oh, hang on, I've got a great advert, Strawberry Studios Forever." "Oh, that's it, Strawberry Studios, well, we'll do that, that's it."
And then you never did the advert?
Never did the advert.
No, so you changed the name, you have to find a new location. And I think via Pauline Renshaw, the secretary of the studio,
around the corner here.
She knew about this building, which had come up for rent, suggested it, so you came and had a look. And obviously liked what you saw. Big, open, empty-ish ground floor.
It wasn't at first.
It wasn't at first. What happened?
Well, we walked, we thought, what we liked was, like reception, then there was this room after reception, all up and up with a screening and a video and a room for showing films. It was originally a part of a TV rental company, TV installers company, TV something to do with TV. We thought, well, that's a nice room. And then beyond that, there was some just plasterboard, some was just plasterboard. But all this, we've got knocked down. Shall we go? Oh, shall we? Tried to box us. So we decided to go to the top floor. And I don't know, it might have been Eric, I don't know. I would have thought it'd probably be Graham or something. So this almighty bang. Eric's got a pretty big hammer and he's going whang. I said, that'll do, we're not that well done.
So we started straight away.
We better rent it. Excuse me, we better rent it. And we did. And we knocked all the walls down. And
I think at that point you brought in Kennedy Street Management Company because, again, you probably needed some investments.
Because we had no money, really. We didn't have a lot of money.
And Kennedy Street were represented by Rick Dixon and Danny Tesh. So they were the kind of the two people who you would deal with most in terms of Kennedy Street.
They were, because we wanted to raise finance to buy the equipment. We started to build up the studio. The equipment we moved from the United, none of it worked properly. Discutting, don't know why it was moved, because I don't know, it didn't like to work. Certain things work, compressors and all that. But we needed decent mixing desks, we needed this, we couldn't afford a knee mixing desk, small knee one. So we thought we need to do something a bit different. And we needed the finance, but imagine the bank, these three long-haired lads wanted to borrow about £10,000, a lot of money though. It was like, must be kidding.
No chance.
But we managed to get finance. I think it was called Forward Trust, because Kennedy Street got the respectability. You know, they more or less guaranteed, but anyway. And that was it. That was So
Strawberry is up and running.
Yes, it is.
By the summer of '68, and for a couple of years, you probably using the same sort of bands you'd been dealing with in above Neil and Hardy's. And I know one who perhaps were the most recorded at Strawberry were the Sid Lawrence Orchestra. And a bit of a challenge for you there, because you're probably more used to bands of 4 or 5 people. And suddenly faced with how many, I don't know how many were in this. 19 people, so a bit of a challenge for you there.
That's an understatement, yes it was. Because it consisted of, a big band consisted of 5 saxophones, 2 altos, 2 tenors, 2 baritone, 4 trumpets, 4 trombones, drums, basses. drums, bass, piano, and then the vocalist. And I thought, how on earth did you do this? Luckily, I knew an engineer at the BBC called Dave Fleming Williams, and he'd recorded the NDO, and I'd actually recorded some of the NDO at Neil and Hardy's, but we call it Intercity, there with Johnny Hamp, just a small session musicians. And he came in to help me, and I learned a lot from him, so I thought, oh wow, so we did it together. He said, right, we do. And he was used to, but he was a typical BBC engineer, Dave, had to be, but not inventive, let's say, right? But they didn't have to be, they weren't meant to be. They decided, oh, but I might do that. Oh, you can't do that. They had strict rules, but some clever ideas they came up to. And we thought, how on earth are we going to record 4 trumpets, 4 trombones, and all these saxophones? We didn't have enough mics, but we had 2 Neumann U67 mics, which I think Eric had bought one. And I bought the other. And you could put them on different pole patterns. So I had them on a figure of 8. So you got the 4 trumpets, for example, sitting 2 facing each other, 2 and 2. Put the mic in the middle, figure of 8. Now, you could only do this with really good musicians, because they're so good. Sid got them to play a built-up chord, like da 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 da. Listen to it, it's all right, you move out a bit, you move in a bit, and they stayed in that position. Because they're so good, they always played at the same level. So we had this sound. We only had 4-track at the time. So I used to give me some terrible headaches.
But there is the famous story of the big band sound coming out on record, which you found by accident, is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us the story.
Well, we had an EMT stereo echo plate, which is basically a sheet of steel with 2 mics on either end, and you had this wheel turned it in and out. Well, then it'll control you could do in the studio. They make a great sound. Most studios had them. They had a stereo one. We had 2, a stereo one and a mono one. And I think it was about 400 quid each at the time. God knows what they cost now. Anyway, I patched them in. So you had the, looking at a big band, let me get this right, you have on the left trumpets and trombones, right saxophones, percussion and all that. That's how it was, I think. And I patched the echo in the wrong way round. And we'd mix this one, mix one, mix one. I thought, something's not, I said, oh, hang on a minute. We're mixing by that time. We've actually got them across. I said, I've got the echo the wrong way around. I said, hang on a minute, do it again. He said, well, that's natural. Because if you were in an auditorium, you would hear the sound of the trumpets that side as well, because you'd hear the echo, and vice versa. So we'll leave it like that. The Love's Orchestra was formed.
And that coincided with a kind of big band sound revival.
Yeah.
Not suggesting that it was all down to you. But
no, I couldn't have done. No. But yeah, it did. Glenn Miller, that's what it was. He played the first album, was all the music of Glenn Miller. And I was always very proud that the BBC used that, some of those tracks. They used to have the test card, remember it used to come on? They used that test card because it said dynamically, it was perfect going that, which was quite something.
Millions of people, without realising it, were listening to Strawberry music in the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, 1968, 69 wasn't it? Yeah.
Excellent. And 1968, 69, I'm generalising here, but generally you were running the studio and engineering, and you had Eric and Graham working here, and they brought a couple of their friends in, Lol Cream and Kevin Godley, and the 4 of them became, if you like, the Strawberry session musicians. So for a couple of years you'd have the 4 of them performing on other people's records and helping bands out.
Yep.
Yeah, and then in late '69, I think Graham was poached by Casanet's Cats in America, and they wanted him to go over there and just write song after song after song that they could release under a variety of names. And I think Graham suggested to Casanet's Cats that they could come over here, use Strawberry and use the musicians in it to record these even more cheaply. Make themselves more money, so that gave Strawberry a boost. But you had Eric Kevin and Lol mainly, recording lots of tracks under some weird and wonderful tracks
weird
that came out under a variety of guises. So people were hearing Strawberry all the time without realising it.
They were, yeah.
But that gave the studio a financial boost, didn't it? Allowed you to upgrade equipment. So by 1970, you've got some new equipment in. You've got Graham still in America. So you've got Eric, Kevin and Lol testing out this equipment, and they create a test track that is basically just showing off the drum sound.
Well, what it was, we were building a drum booth, and we'd built one first, and it was all like soft board, a bit plastic board, and it thought it's a bit dull. So I don't know if we get bacon foil, strip it up, that make it a bit toppier. Experimented, so that it was experimented, having getting the drum like that. Oh, a bit more of this, we're going on. What EQs we put on, and he was doing the dum 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 dum. Then Lol was strumming his guitar, and where he came up with the Neanderthal Man, I have no idea. In the background, next, what's that noise? What's that? It was Lol. Oh, what's he doing? And then it was actually, hang on a minute. Neanderthal Man came about.
So that was just a test track. Big drum sound with Lol singing faintly in the background. And that would have been the end of it. That would just be something you played to people when they came in saying, what kind of sound can you get?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, that was the idea, but it ended up with suddenly becoming, let's do a bit more on it. I mean, Eric really was, that's a bit more. I ended up playing a milk bottle on it, I think. And Eric, and Lol did this, had a little penny, what they do, that flute thing. And Eric came up with the tone generator by mistake, but the tone generator, and that middle bit, and stopped it, cut the tape, and that was it. But we thought, well, it's a bit of a laugh.
But then Dick Leahy from Philips came into the studio
to listen to it.
And heard this, presumably, and told you it was going to be a hit record.
Oh yeah, so that's great. Then we thought he's out of his mind. And he said, I bet the lads, he said, he offered £500 for it, about £500. And then Rick Dixon happened to be in because it was Sid Lawrence, and he said, no, the lads will take royalties. I looked at him and thought, you idiot, who's going to spy that? The only decent good thing Rick did actually was better than me. And he said, it's not going to sell. And Dilly said, yeah, we're fine. Number two
in the charts.
Biggest surprise I had.
With Strawberry Studios written on the label, which was unusual at the time because it didn't happen often. And a Radio 1 DJ read it out, everything, because they didn't know who Hot Legs were.
Yeah, it was a famous DJ. It was Alan Freedman.
Alan Freedman.
Just read out the label. This is Hot...
recorded at Strawberry Studios.
No, he was recorded at Strawberry. Didn't realise what he'd said.
Fantastic.
Yeah, great. We decided we wanted our name on every single label. No problem. We said, yeah, fine if you want it. Didn't cost them anything. Nobody been done.
So that was the first big hit record for Strawberry.
Yeah.
Even though they'd heard you on the test card, and I think Sid Lawrence had recorded the Mexico Grandstand theme for the BBC as well. So again, people probably heard that without realising. So Strawberry now has a hit record. What you probably needed to expand the appeal even more was perhaps some kind of international recognition.
That would be.
And your big international star could come and record in Stockport, which sounds far-fetched, but you actually did that in late 71, early 72. Neil Sedaka, who had kind of disappeared from view, really. He was doing the cabaret circuit in the UK, wasn't he? But through some association with Harvey Lisberg.
Well, no, I think it was Kerry Street because they did tours. They toured for all sorts of people.
Right.
They did groups and everything.
I think Harvey had met him in New York, and I think the story goes that Sedaka had heard one of the bubblegum tracks that had been recorded in Strawberry and said, oh, I like that track. And Harvey apparently said, well, I'll show you the studios where it was recorded. That's in Harvey's book. But anyway, so Neil Sedaka comes to Stockport.
Yes.
Initially, perhaps just to try 2 or 3 tracks. And he's got Eric, Kevin, Lol and Graham's back in the country now. He's come back from America as his backing musicians. he likes it so much he actually stays to do a whole album.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
That must have been quite an experience having, because he would have been one of your idols, I presume.
Yeah, just a bit, yeah.
So, any particular memories of his time?
Oh, lots of them. One in particular, he was staying at a hotel near the airport. I can't remember what it was called. And a couple of times I picked him up, because I lived, where did I live then? West Park Road, yeah, fairly near, so it was easy for me to pick him up. So sometimes he got a cab in, and picked him up. And this particular day, I picked him up, and the road studio said, Eddie, what's history? And now, what happened, because the studio was getting very busy then, so he was only in from till about 5 at night, because he was playing variety clubs. So I was recording from then on, so I couldn't do both. So Eric had to do most of the engineering, and I did some when Eric was doing the, obviously, like that, but I did it. And I'm resetting the mics, because I'd used them different that night before. And he played piano, and he said, I've come up with this idea of this song, and he sat this piano playing it. He said, what do you think of this? And he's playing this song, singing it, and it was Solitaire. And he said, what do you think of that song? So do that one. I went, well, I can't say in the films what he actually said, but basically it was absolutely amazing. I said, that's pretty good, actually. Yeah.
So you were one of the first people to ever hear Solitaire.
He played Spain.
And that was recorded here
it was an album.
in this very room, probably.
Room,
well, near enough, but yeah. So, in fact, Sedaka enjoyed himself so much he actually came back to record a second album. Just as, and we'll come on to this now, but Eric, Graham, Kevin and Lol have been the studio session musicians for 4 or 5 years by 72, 73. And they've worked with Sedaka. They've given, in fact, Sedaka actually became successful again as a result of the first album that he did here. So the 4 musicians think to themselves, perhaps we should do something for ourselves rather than for other people. And that's how 10cc were formed after 4 years under your tutoring and help.
Not just mine,
your studio. So but did you see that coming? Did you see them eventually getting together and becoming a band or not?
Well, no, I don't think anyone did, to be honest. I doubt it. They just started. Well, I think it's when Hot Legs. Yeah, that was it. We did the Hot Legs album. Henrik and I just did it together, and Graham came in halfway through, and he played bass on some of it. And I think it was around that time, because Hot Legs, that album, I think it's a very good album, very good. And then they did tours with the Moody. Graham went on that tour, I'm sure he played bass on that tour. He did. With Mike Timoney, was on electric recorder box, hidden behind the screen, and 2 drummers.
Mick Gilbone was one of them.
Mike, the secretary's brother. And we played the first gig, and we'd made a little mobile recording thing, PA, and we had a couple of some JBL speakers, and this little thing that Tony Cockle made, actually, a little mixing desk. My first gig, so I was in the Royal Albert Hall of all places in London, Royal Festival Hall in London, and we're in the sort of where the orchestra pit would be, and then they came on, and the compere announced them. You may you've always Hot Legs now, little man, but be prepared for a surprise, because he obviously rehearsed it, and the audience were going. They came on and they blew it apart. They were really good. No one had ever seen 2 drummers and this sound of the quarter box and and I'm mixing it there thinking, oh, get this sound. I knew what I was doing, really. I've done it enough with them. I went on tour, and then what happened is I think it was only about a few gigs, but when the New Forest, John Lodge supposedly came ill. Oh, they blew up their PA, that's right. They had a PA and their road is wired up wrong and it blew every speaker, so they had to use ours, which didn't like it.
I mean, there is a scurrilous rumour that the Moody Blues were upset that Hot Legs were so good.
Yeah.
that was a sabotage of the tour, but obviously we wouldn't say that.
I don't know. That's what sort of.
That was the story that did the rounds at the time. But Hot Legs were good, and obviously out of Hot Legs came 10cc.
Oh, yeah, it did, yeah. That's big gaps. After that,
Yeah.
so they started playing together, started writing songs together, and that was it, really.
And that marks 4 years, 72 to 76, of 10cc getting bigger and bigger and better,
Yeah.
and becoming international superstars, which must have, I mean, Eric and Graham were co-directors in the studio, so that must have benefited Strawberry, if nothing else, just for the kind of publicity that the studio was getting.
It was good, yeah, it was very good. And we started, lots more people coming, and I think one of the good things was, thank Granada in a way, Granada TV, because they had that programme Lift Off with Aisha, was it?
Yeah.
And those days of music, the groups, whoever they were, singers, whatever, had to do it live, had to re-record, in other words. So there was a lot of session musicians, band, and they were doing it at Granada at first, but the engineers couldn't handle it. Well, they've got to be fair, they weren't up to, the sound engineers at Granada TV at the time weren't really into music, but they weren't trained for that, obviously. They were doing like coronation and things like that, so it's fair enough. And so they came down, Mew Young and then Johnny Hamp, I think, came. And the engineer, I think it was called Dave Russ at the time, to see what the studio was like and what I could do, and just said, yeah, we'll do it here. And from then on, they recorded every single one of those shows, and a lot of other shows for Granada. So all the artists that were coming suddenly realised, hey, this is good up here, because a lot of them worked in the north, you see, a lot of places, and so they started coming back, doing albums and doing things, and we had loads of them, loads of them.
So you've got 10cc success on one side, helping to create publicity, but you've also got the studio developing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was developing technically anyway, because you were upgrading equipment. And obviously the kind of iconic symbol of Strawberry was the red Helios desk that you installed in 73. And that looked the part, didn't it? That was a rock and roll desk.
Well, Eric and I designed that because the original desk we had done from the original little studio, which was around here somewhere, little room, was an upright one. They were always upright, those desks. So you had the mixing, the faders, and then you had the all the controls. But it was always, you can only get one person. It was weird, So we sat talking with the office and said, "What about if you could wrap around?" I think, to be the truth, no, but it's the sort of thing you see in spaceships. Always all around. How about something like that? That's how it came about. The two people could sit at the front, the producer, the engineer, and they were all wrapped around the side. So you got perfect stereo. So the way the speaker's position, dead centre, you got the perfect sound, mixed stereo. I think we're the first people to do a wrap-around desk. We got Helios because he did the other, he did the original components with the other one. And did it red, don't know whose idea that was. No idea, can't remember. But we actually did the cutout in cardboard. On the office, on my desk, on the pool table, we cut it all out. So that's about right.
If only we still had that cardboard cutout.
Oh, yeah, I think it
But never mind.
If you had the desk, that was a brilliant, proper rock and roll desk. The beauty is, you could bang the faders up, you could have the level, so the meters used to go straight over and stick like that. It never distorted. It was proper. There's some great sounds out of that.
Well, yeah.
Some great groups as well. Some weird groups, to say the least. Some very new groups.
So, as the early 70s became the mid-70s, we've had 10cc getting more famous, but perhaps, arguably, one of Strawberry's most famous visitors came in 74. So 10cc were recording their second album, their kind of, probably their best album, a lot of people say, sheet music.
Yeah.
And they were recording for half of the time, so perhaps in the day.
No, they were at night.
They were at night. But in the day, you had a gentleman from Liverpool, Mike McGeer, who had a very famous brother.
Yes.
Who was Paul McCartney. And Mike McGeer asked Paul McCartney to produce his album that he was recording here. So you had Paul and Linda McCartney and Wings come into Strawberry,
Yeah.
certainly for a few weeks, to put together the album.
Yeah.
So half the time you had 10cc recording, the other half you had Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
That must have been a real thrill for you.
It was bloody hard work. Yes, it was. Yeah, it was. I knew Mike very well because I recorded all the scaffold stuff going way back. After they had Lilith, I recorded all their stuff, including the weird adverts he used to do for decimalisation. It was a great story, that. Decimalisation came out, and the advert on television was recorded by the scaffold. We hadn't a clue what decimalisation, what it meant. And we went through all this, and I was so, I came out and put a hand over, before, but I said, this is what it is, that, so many pence, is it? It was great. I had the clue really, but it started the script. What's all this?
But by the end, you knew exactly what it was.
I knew exactly what it was, yeah, and I had a big row with the florist in Stents of Stockport. There's a little thing. You used to get flowers, it was 12 to a bunch. A dozen flowers, that was a bunch of flowers. So I went to get something, but they gave me 10. What's that for? It's decimalisation, 10 cents. Right. I got me 12, I got me other 2. Yeah.
Amazing.
It shows you what went on. Anyway, that's besides the point.
So you'd worked with Mike McGeer through Scaffold, and obviously he brought his brother in to produce.
Yep.
So hopefully you didn't make any mistake, or nobody made any mistakes, did they?
Okay.
Martin Lawrence, I think.
Martin, I got the...
No longer with us, sadly.
No, not. I needed a training engineer, so Sid Lawrence is some Martin, training engineer, who was a very good engineer, became a very good engineer. And so we're recording, Paul's doing his bass line thing. I recorded, and Martin inadvertently pressed the wrong button. He wiped it when we were doing the next overdub. I looked round, I thought, where's the bass gone? I saw this other red light, I thought, oh no. So I stopped it. Paul said, we've got a bit of a problem. So I said, it's like drop out on the track. So can we just redo that bass line all again? And Martin's gone white. And he said, yeah, right. And I turned around and I said, what he actually said, I can't say, I said, basically, don't do that ever again. And he never made that mistake again. He went, shake.
Did you ever tell Paul McCartney what had happened, really? Yeah. I'm sure he was all right, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, it was great because you have to bear in mind that Wings wasn't Wings then. He was trying out the musicians, because the drummer was Jerry. Can't remember. He actually ended up. He wouldn't join. He decided to stay with another band. It was Denny Lane. Oh, I can't remember the rest of the names.
Well, Jimmy McCulloch.
In
fact, that he invited him to come to Strawberry to invite him to join Wings.
Yes, that's right. He came and did some sessions. He really from New Zealand, wasn't he, Jimmy McCulloch? I think.
I don't know.
Another one. Anyway, but it was a great atmosphere. But we had so much equipment that we basically decided the basics would stay the same, like an amps and all that. But obviously the guitars didn't. The drums were the favourite drum spawn, but it was basically the same kit in a way. It was the only way he could do it. But then they didn't have an electric piano, so Eric did. So it was that big swap round. Paul used to arrive there about 10:30 in the morning. He was stepping in Liverpool and leave about 10 at night, round about there, 10 at night. When 10cc came in, then they carried on from that right the way through the morning till probably 9 o'clock or something. So that's what it ran. It was running 24 hours virtually.
So at that point, you must have thought, Strawberry's made it now. I've got 24 hours recording.
Yes.
I've got a big international band in 10cc recording their second album, and I've got Paul McCartney the rest of it. That must have been, sounds good.
Yeah, yeah. But I knew Paul remembered me from the days at Brian Epstein, and we were, we were editing the multi-track. We used to edit a multi-track. We started to talk about something. I won't say what it was, and suddenly, in the peripheral, he saw Linda come to control me. He said, completely changed the subject. I went, what? All right. Anyway, no, that's just. But Linda was great. The show Tuesday, she made all pancakes for us all.
In the studio?
In the studio, in the next room, making pancakes. Brilliant. It was very family orientated. And we had a great party at Eric's afterwards when their albums finished, and so was Mike's album, and yeah, it was a really good atmosphere. A lot of some good tracks were done as well. Then Paul decided, we'll record Liverpool Lou. That was the next Scaffold single. Because John and him I don't know who came up with the idea. Probably John Gorman might have done. So we did record Liverpool Lou, and the solo. They did Top of the Pops, and on Top of the Pops, the solo was on the gizmo, which was what Lolland was invented.
We'll come on to the gizmo in a minute.
Yeah. All right. But on Top of the Pops, John Gorman wound, when the solo was winding this thing, and the flap dropped over and an egg rolled out, and Lolland wasn't happy about that. But that was the first time the gizmo was ever used on a record, on a hit record.
And it was a hit record, yeah.
Number one record, Liverpool Lou.
So let's just touch on the gizmo. So the gizmo was a device that Kevin and Lol had invented.
Yeah.
Probably pre-10cc, probably in the early 70s. They had this idea.
Yeah, the idea, yeah.
They wanted to change the sound of a guitar, and rather than plucking at strings, they wanted to have the kind of sustained vibration, as though you were bowing, like a violin. Yeah. And they invented these strange, weird ways of doing that with like electric toothbrush or a drill. Yeah, a drill. But eventually they kind of, with the help of people at UMIST, developed something called the gizmo, which clamps onto the guitar, rotates little wheels that rub the strings. Yeah. Were you impressed with the gizmo, or did you think it was a bit of, no? Was it too much work?
For the amount of time it took to make and all that, it was okay, but yeah, it was all right. I'm impressed by it.
We'll come back to it in a minute, because obviously it played a big part in Strawberry's history. So 10cc recorded 4 albums in Strawberry, and by 1976 the studio itself was running so successfully that 10cc were actually having trouble booking time. They couldn't actually find any time long enough for them to record. So they took the rather drastic step of opening a new studio down south. So they had a Strawberry South in Dorking from 1976 onwards. And obviously you had Strawberry North here. Did that upset you? Did it?
Not in the least.
No, you weren't bothered that 10cc were disappearing off?
No, because I knew they'd still record up here.
Right.
You know, because someone realised they had to make it a viable operation. They had to have other people in. They couldn't just do it on their own. And Graham still lived up here. He wasn't going to move. And I was supposed to be involved as a director. I said, no way. No, that was their thing. No. Big mistake. They should never have done that. Big mistake. But
yeah, hindsight probably shows you that. But in fact, more drastically for 10cc fans, 76 also saw the band split in half. Kevin and Lol were so taken with their gizmo that they wanted to actually record, first of all, a single, then an album, showcasing what the gizmo could do. So they actually left Eric and Graham in Strawberry South. But stayed here, and for 18 months or so recorded what eventually became a triple album called Consequences, which was meant to showcase the gizmo. Eventually included a Peter Cook, the comedian, drama, as well as the music, so it went a bit overboard, possibly.
That's an understatement, yeah.
But the actual recording sessions here for the gizmo parts of the album must have been amazing, because there was some kind of weird and wonderful recording sessions, really throwing buckets of water at the wall outside, burying people as you shovel sand down the steps in the cellar.
Doing the fireworks.
The fireworks is perhaps the most famous. Tell us about the fireworks, because you went to Woodbank Park, I think, didn't you?
Well, what happened was they wanted to, they had some proper fireworks. Well, it wasn't in bonfire night time, so. But I happened to have bought fireworks to St. Winifred's School, because I was quite into fireworks from Standard, right? And but they had a place, someone bought, I think it was Payne's Fireworks in Liverpool. So I don't know whether I phoned, I can't remember. Anyway, I said, well, they want, probably Long and Kevin said, they want things that go bang and which someone. So they said, come down, they paid for them, and I brought them back in my car. signal maroons and everything in the back. If I'd been had a crash, I hated it would have happened. So the way they said, we can't do them around here, we're going to Woodbank Park. What a great idea. So Kevin Long, Martin Little, Boyle tape recorder, me, Roger Barnes, I took them. We put some things up from the goalpost. Was Tony Cockle there? No, on the keyboards, no. The mortars, we only had a couple to go, put things in. Don't know if that's going off, the rockets going up. Right, we need the mortar. So I lit what I presume was a mortar that would go up and go, boom, pretty. Oh no. This shot up, made the biggest bang I'd ever heard in my life. Oh, well, we were just astonished. Every car and alarm, dogs, everything in the area went off. We got out of there so fast. What he'd given us was a signal maroon for boats in distress on the sea.
So you set off a ship maroon?
Set off a distressed maroon.
Yeah.
Of seamanship.
In the middle of Woodbank Park?
In the middle of Woodbank Park in Stockport. Sounded... I'll never forget that. Never forget it. Oh no. And it was amazing. It was quite funny afterwards, but we were, blimey, we were out there like a shot in the cars. Oh, they got out of the way quick. Cars on, dogs were going mad. Thousands must have been shit. We had a hell of a bang.
Wow.
We're meant to be set in the middle of the ocean, aren't they?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I wonder if there's still a crater in Woodbank Park from where that was. But
I doubt it. Probably filled it. There would have been a crater.
Yeah.
It would have blown the thing apart, the motor thing apart. And it wasn't bonfire night either.
I mean, the other thing about those sessions, lots of stories, but the one that sticks in my mind is that Kevin and Lol weren't averse to the odd practical joke, especially at your expense. 10cc had done the same, but perhaps Kevin and Lol's kind of biggest practical joke was to effectively brick up the control room with wooden board and brick wallpaper.
Yeah.
And the story is that you were bringing back to Strawberry some international executive.
It was, the owner of Westlake Audio.
Okay. And he was coming to look round, and Kevin and Lowell got wind of this and actually basically bricked up your control room so that when you brought this gentleman into the control room, I've heard, you can tell me if it's true, that you walked in, looked around, walked back out again.
Yeah, I did.
Thinking you were just in the wrong room.
I did.
Realised from your bearings that you were in the control room, but you just couldn't contemplate what was going on because it was just bricked up. That must have been quite a kind of feat of engineering, if nothing else.
They got, it was a custom. They got a joiner in to make all the basic framework, and they stuck all this brick wallpaper.
Just to play a joke on you.
And they knew it was coming on Saturday, and they were there. They were hidden. So a roar of laughter suddenly. Because, what was his? What's the name of the guy on Westlake Audio? I can't, not forgotten his name. Great designer. He designed all the studio. I walked in, and he looked around, and I was, oh sorry, wrong. I walked on, and well, it can't be. Walked back in, and I thought, what? You know. And then he said it's paper, and then this laughter came out. I think he did see this funny side of it. You can't tell with the Americans, can you?
Did you see the funny side of it?
Eventually.
Eventually, not straight away.
I did, yeah. Not as much as funny side as a pool table, but that's another story.
Well, that was the same thing, wasn't it? So you had a pool table down in the basement.
Yeah. Rented, by the way.
Rented, yeah. And they covered the table to protect it.
Green baize.
But then trashed it completely. Wine bottles, food, the lot.
On purpose. And I walked in the morning and I thought, well, I can't repeat on film. I thought, well, what have they gone and done? I can't believe what they'd done. I thought, I should have cleared up. And then I figured what had happened in the end. There was that one, and then the classic one was there. Should I tell about that one?
Oh, yeah. Is that when 10cc were? Yeah. And they wired up the desk.
They wired up the desk, yeah.
So that they were down in the basement. You were engineering Oscar with Kevin Parrott.
Kevin Parrott and Brian Oscar. But Kevin Parrott put a solo on, and I was sat behind the desk, and he played the solo, and suddenly a wrong note, and I went, "You played the wrong note there, Kevin." No, I didn't. I said, "You did." And Jeff Gill, producer, said, what's the matter with him? I said, I don't know, you know. And it kept happening. He don't think it's weird, this was. And then he played the whole thing in perfect harmony. I hadn't recorded it. I thought, I'll do that again. The harmony was great. And I thought, hang on a minute, how's he done that? How's he just done the harmony on guitar? It's not Chet Atkins. I thought something wrong here. And I went round the back and I started to undo the panels at the back. And suddenly this voice said, don't touch me. And I thought, shut up. And what they'd done, they'd wired up the speakers downstairs, and then it was the guitar. And he was, as soon as Kevin was playing it, then he deliberately played a wrong note. And the way the speakers were done, because you'd do the little speakers, the tiny one, they were prior to the big speakers. So I heard that first. And they ran out. I walked down and and they told the disc jockey came. It was Alan Freeman knew that. They came in, they told about the joke, and I walked in the next day, and he just, how we got you this? I said, I'll get you back. I will get you back one day. I don't remember if I did, but oh, that was like weird, because I remember Brown McGladys leaning on top of the desk, and one of them went, ouch. He just said ouch. I said, don't be. He said, the desk is talking to me. I said, what's he on? What is he? Not on anything. You're on drugs. And we thought it was Tony Bamford who was dozing off in the back. We said, Tony, shut up. He said, what? No, me. You're saying things, and I'm not saying anything. I thought, I'm going mad here. I'm actually going out of my mind. Late at night. It was a night session. Mm. But anyway, that made it.
Yeah, it kept them entertained, if nothing else.
It kept them entertained.
Yeah, absolutely, and probably got your blood pressure up as well.
Oh, probably, yeah.
But, so Kevin and Lowell recorded Consequences for about 18 months, so we're getting to about 77 when they actually went to the Manor with Peter Cook to record the rest of it.
Yeah, because we were booked, we had to. You can't, it's a bit like if you supply to Marks and Spencer, don't put your eggs in one basket because somebody don't like you've had it. So you can't, you've got to record other people as well.
And what was interesting was that period saw the music industry changing, and that's one of the reasons that Consequences did so badly. Yeah. Triple album coming out just as punk had hit. It was everything that punk probably hated about the 70s superstars. But how did that impact Strawberry? Because you've got this kind of changing guard of music. Well, so you've got younger, fresher bands, bit of a rawer sound, who perhaps weren't looking for the sophistication that Strawberry had. Did it? But you didn't see any drop in bookings or anything like that? Because
bearing in mind, we had done Joy Division and Martin Hannett, and let's be honest, the things that Martin Hannett did, you know, you can't say that were like...
No, in fact, they're probably... Yeah. So Martin Hannett coming here and Factory was obviously centred around Tony Wilson. Oh yeah. So you knew Tony anyway.
Oh, yeah. I knew him. I didn't know him. I don't know. I must have known him from doing the things at Granada. But he came. I did a deal with him first because he had Factory Records. They got a lot of money, obviously. And I said, well, if you want to come in at night, and I give you engineer Chris Nagel, who was training up his days, because I can't work overnight because I'm doing, you know. I said, and we'll just make a note of the hours, and if you get a deal, first record, pay us the full. Right? And he did, fortunately, the first. I can't remember who the first band was, and he did. And from then on, that was it. But you subsidised Factory. Probably, yeah. Inadvertently, yeah. But it was kind of partnership, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, because he always used to come in with the saddlebags. Yeah. So Martin Hannett was the Factory producer. Yeah. And there is the story that he liked the sophistication of Strawberry because he was into all the sound equipment and all the sophistication. So he would have liked that anyway, but the story goes that he also liked the building and its kind of industrial heritage and the sound, which I think there's the story that he felt there was something coming up from the bottom, like the foundations of the building, helping the sound he was creating. Yeah, he was probably on something at the time, but probably was. But he did like the build. He liked Strawberry. There was a resin. I know. I think what it was because it was a suspended floor, but a very, very thick floor. There was something. Yeah, there was something, and the acoustics were especially designed and what we fancied, what we liked. The desk was designed individually. Eric and I, what we thought would be sensible, and all the outboard equipment and everything. And I think it was a whole blend of it. And what studio in England that had rocks on the wall? No, none of them. Or sloping like that and sloping down, and cork on the walls, thick cork, tree bark on the walls. But it worked. Thank goodness.
In fact, Tony Wilson was very complimentary about Strawberry in his book, 24-Hour Party People, where he says that Factory basically became a success because of what you and 10cc had done in setting up Strawberry, because it gave them a studio local to them. They didn't have to go to London, which had been a big thing for you and for 10cc. They didn't want to be having to go to London, and obviously that's what Factory Records was very much based on, being a Manchester organisation. So
that's it, because groups, it was a binder to go to London, and then the record companies started to have their own studios, and they were bound by what they wanted to do and the hours they wanted to do and the regimentation of it. It wasn't free. It wasn't free. You know, you couldn't do what you liked. Apart from, I think, last time I saw recording was at Abbey Road. We were mastering a 5.5 album. And the roadie came, so I was there and said, come to Paul's and Linda, and they were just set up doing something in there. But they set out Studio 2 at Abbey Road, umbrellas, beach umbrellas and all that sort of thing. He could get away with just doing what he wanted, obviously, because he was making them a lot of money. But the other studios weren't. They were very, very regimentated down south.
In fact, by the end of the 70s, the kind of new music coming through hadn't affected Strawberry, was still a success, so much so that you actually looked to open a second studio across the road that had been an ironmonger's.
That's right.
And Strawberry was so busy that you actually had this thought that maybe you could open up a second studio, a bit more basic. You could put, because you were about to change the mixing desk, the red Helios desk was about to be changed to a Formula Sound desk.
Which was all Helios components.
So you had the thought that maybe the red desk could go across to this new studio. So you did open Strawberry 2,
that's right,
just across the road from where we are now. And you put the red desk in there. Still famous bands would go there. The Smiths recorded their first 2 singles there.
Who?
The Smiths.
So
So you're running 2 studios basically. Do you think, was it a mistake, long run?
In hindsight, probably was, but we deliberately designed that it could take big choirs or big bands. It was designed like that, very open studio, which certain of the groups liked it. I remember I used to record the Demon of all people. Me recording Demon, I think about it now. Strawberry, a lot of people often would record this Strawberry and Strawberry 1, Strawberry 2. They do other things in Strawberry 2. You can swap records, the same 24 track, you know. And that happened quite a bit. It was designed with that in mind. I recorded, Glory Glory Man United, but shame for all you City supporters. But anyway, that was quite a good record. A lot of football records. I mean, that was it designed for. I've even had the Ukrainian choir, and they were brilliant. They were, especially when they started doing all that dancing. I said, "They're doing all that dancing." I said, "Yeah, they're doing all the." Have a go. No way. Oh, it was great. They were really nice people. They were great. Manchester Ukrainian folk. Anyway, what they were.
But let me just stop in 1981 for a second. So you've opened up Strawberry 2, but coming to this main Strawberry, they'd been a few times before, a local group who you recorded, who actually got the Christmas #1 in 1981.
Do you mind if I have a sip of coffee?
You have a sip.
Get me nerves going.
So I'm talking about St Winifred's School Choir.
Yes.
Now you obviously knew about St Winifred's School Choir. Your children had gone there.
School, my daughter was in the choir.
And you obviously, they'd been before to Strawberry. But you had thoughts of recording a single with them because it was the Queen Mother's
it was
80th birthday.
Yeah, it was. I did lots of things with mainly kids' albums with music for pleasure. But it was just an idea. I did an album for them. I heard the choir singing at church once. They're a really good choir. Do harmonies, very unusual for that age group. Said the sister choir, I'm doing an album. The parents said it was a nice thing. Raised school, did it. And one of the parents sent a copy to Yorkshire TV. Friend at Yorkshire TV. Next minute, they wanted the kids at Yorkshire TV doing something. Burr Lives apparently. From then on, I sent it to them to Music for Pleasure because I knew him. And they said, oh, kids' albums, and that's what we started doing. And I got this track, these cassettes. Used to get a lot of a day. This was in tune going through my mind at night. The next day, I said to Roger, this tune's going through my mind, and I don't know what it was. And he said, maybe somebody was playing yesterday, and it was this tape of Grandma. And the guy had said the idea for the Queen Mother's 80th birthday.
I think it would have been. Yeah.
And I thought, I said, no. I thought, Christmas, kids, Christmas, Grandma, lots of grannies around. Ooh, let's make a record. Went to choir, said, fancy doing this? I tell him, yeah, right, totally. And I got on a Sunday, they practiced at school, obviously. And I got Mike Timmy in, he just did the track, just us all on synth. Took me about a couple of hours. The kids came up Sunday morning, did it, and mixed it down. That's it. And that was it. Sent it to, right, every record company turned it down. Sent it to all number 24. Because I knew them all, obviously. No, well, I might have to do it myself. But I couldn't afford it, we lived in a house. And then Music Pleasure came back, so we'd never done a single. We put it out as a single. And bear in mind, Music Pleasure at those days had put a lot of the albums and stuff in stationery, all sorts of shops. So they had browsers and everything. And they very cleverly designed the packaging. I think each box had 25 records in it, singles in it, and the lid, they put a copy of the cover on the lid. So it opened it up in a little browser. And I thought, it might sell, it might not. And Terry Wogan picked it up for some reason, don't know why, got played on. They went to the charts at number 40 something. I was amazed. Then it went to 16. Then I thought, hang on a minute, on and on and on. And I used to write down every day what the sales were, and I was getting more and more excited, thinking, hey, this is doing really well. And one day it went gold and silver in one day. Wow. Silver in the morning, the returns came in at like lunchtime, silver, and the returns came in the evening and gone gold. Incredible. So that's over 250,000 records in a day.
But your chances of it getting to number one were obviously hit when John Lennon was shot.
Yeah.
And obviously all his records were going to the top of the charts.
Oh yes, they were, yeah.
So it looked like you'd missed the chance of getting the number one, but just in time for Christmas.
Just in time for Christmas, and so I knocked him off knocked John Lennon off number one.
You knocked John Lennon off number one and had the Christmas number one.
Yeah, about 2 or 3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was amazed.
That's probably the only Stockport Christmas number one, I would
probably
venture to suggest.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. And the choir, I mean, you see, working with kids, it's weird because they had to do a Top of the Pops. And Top of the Pops, I know we can't have children, you know, they didn't. But when it got into the top 10, they had to have them. They had to have them. So they took down and they thought they're going to be unruly, but St. Mary's Scribe weren't. Hence, that's why they did so much television for Granada because they were very organised, disciplined choir, basically. The kids don't know what to do. So Sally Lindsay was in the choir. She was one of the choir. She recounts that on the TV she did recently. And so we went to Top of the Pops, and they thought, well, what we'll do the children first, so they don't have to hang around other groups. And they still had the audience of the kids in. And so they were so good, they walked in, stood up exactly what they had to do. And the producer, I'm sat there with him thinking, in the control room, and just thinking, hope they're all right. I said, they'll be fine. And they did it in one take. The technicians, producer, and the BBC were like gobsmacked. So we don't need to do it again. He said he couldn't believe it. The audience, the audience, teenagers were going wild. And it came out a lot of people saying on the radio, how on earth did that child sing there, live on Top of the Pops? It wasn't live, but recorded, just sang the whole thing. And I thought, well, that's it. We took them off, and that was it. We took them, they had to stay overnight because we were doing another television somewhere. So we took them to the Science Museum, which was great, fun. With Eamon O'Neill, I used to go with quite. And Eamon O'Neill was a teacher at St. Monica's then. And we looked after the boys, and Terry looked after the girls. We used to take the lads around the Science Museum and get them up all sorts of things. It was great fun. They were great. They're great kids. They were all under 11.
And from that, they actually got to appear on stage with ABBA as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
They invited them to come and perform as a concert.
Yeah. So.
And came back over the years. They'd been to Strawberry before they recorded that, and they came afterwards in one famous album of Disney songs.
Oh yeah.
Which you sent to Disney.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
In the hope that they would just perhaps let you do.
Yes. So it is. If you do anything of Disney, anybody can record a Disney song, right? Because once a song's released, you can. But if it's on a film release, it's slightly different. You've got to say yes, they like it or they don't like it. They loved it. And so, oh, that's nice. Then they came back and said, we'd like to design the cover. So you can imagine, Music for Pleasure, oh, delighted, yeah, design the cover. Thinking I'd have a picture of Mickey Mouse on it. It was the 70th, was it the 70th? Diamond Jubilee of Disney, that's right, that's why I did it. Yeah, every single Disney character on that cover. It's absolutely iconic cover, that. That would have cost, well, basically, the guy at Music for Pleasure said, we could never afford to have done that in a million years.
And they gave it you free?
Free, yeah. And they actually sold the album at Disney World.
Right.
Because of that. But something, isn't it, that?
Amazing.
Great album. It's a really good album, actually. Then we did some of the albums as well after that. Then after it, I think then we stopped. I think we did something for the Pope, and I thought, that's enough now.
In fact, speaking of the Pope, you actually, in a roundabout sort of way, recorded the Pope at Strawberry. Pope John Paul, who came, did a tour of Britain, didn't he, in 81, I think it was. And you had, the BBC always released a record of the recordings of the Pope speaking or doing services. I think you thought we could nip in here and do a Strawberry version. So how did you do that?
We tied them with all the commercial radio stations because they transmitted it as well. So we recorded it.
You had all the feeds coming into the studio? Yeah.
No. What we did was record it. We all went to the different places.
Oh, right. Yeah. You travelled to the venues?
Yeah. And I actually went to the venue in Manchester. So Piccadilly, I picked it up from there afterwards. So we had all the tapes recorded at all the different venues he did. I forget how many there was. 4, was there 5, something like that. And then we edited them in the studio. And I thought, hang on a minute, I'm editing the Pope, I can make him say whatever I want. Because we were recording his speeches, not the music. We couldn't do the music. I don't being very carefully. So I knew the parish priest and I said, do you want to come in? And he helped. He said, no, so we'll keep that bit, no, that's not interesting, in that. And so I said, well, have a drink. Anyway, so he said, tell him what to do and drink. Oh, man. And anyway, the album came out. It was, and we thought this is going to be good. And
it came out before the BBC one, I think. You got it out before,
BBC,
didn't you?
A couple of weeks. They were not happy. They were not happy at all. And it started to sell. And then the Pope decided to go to Argentina just after the Falklands War.
But at least you can say the Pope recorded in Strawberry, sort of.
And we did a single as well, Welcome John Paul, which did all right, but not. But I think that was the last sort of thing I did. We did a thing called My Hand, written by Mick Coleman. That was quite nice. Then Ken Dodlin covered it, and he started on the charts. But then he got. We were very. Granada really liked St. Monica's Choir, right? And the report. Oh, what was the reporter who did Scene at 6:30? Can't remember his name at Granada. He picked up this story. By the Daily Mirror. Daily Mirror, I sent it to him, and they started interviewing Ken Dodd about his new single. Then he really laid into, why do you do it when it's the children doing it? And he said, well, anybody could record White Christmas.
So we've reached the 1980s, and Strawberry have opened and closed a studio across the road.
Yep.
You didn't close it, you sold it to a gentleman called Nick Turnbull,
Yes.
who changed it into a studio called Yellow 2.
Yep.
And so that became completely separate, so you had two competing studios.
We weren't supposed to, but anyway.
Yeah, he told you that he was only going to be doing film. Okay.
Because that's what he did.
But turned into a sound studio, so... And again, various bands recorded at Yellow 2. Some even recorded at Yellow 2 and Strawberry at the same time. But when you look at the kind of mid-80s, the whole industry is changing.
Absolutely. Totally.
And digital recording is coming in.
Yeah.
So big pressures on recording studios.
Yeah.
Do they stay analogue? Do they go digital? So you must have been under a lot of pressure at the time.
Yeah.
And eventually, within a couple of years of selling Strawberry to Nick Turnbull, he came in with an offer to buy Strawberry.
Yeah.
And it was at that time you were actually exploring other possibilities for this studio.
Yep.
And you had the enticing opportunity of a deal with a record company.
Yep.
I believe they would have paid the running costs of the studio, and obviously they could then cream off any talents, any unsigned bands who came through. So you had this all lined up, but that didn't happen. Why didn't that happen?
Well, basically, that was a time also that record companies distributed the records. So it was ideal because we had the basement spare. There's a storage for them. I thought this is perfect. You can have a storage in there. They would pay the running costs of the studios. And we could have groups in for nothing, but people paid as well. So basically the idea was that we'd sort of open house the studios. Any talent, any group, anywhere, Manchester area, wherever, could come and record for free. Certain time, we'd tell them what times, either day, night, whatever, right? Once it was recorded, the record company got first, they listened to it the first time. If they wrote their own material, their publishing company got first dabs at it if they wanted. That was their groups had to agree to that. If they didn't, they were free to take it anywhere else they wanted. That was the deal. The money involved, they couldn't do anything until the end of the financial year, it would be in April, the new financial year. I said, right, and he said to me, because I was dealing with one person I knew very well, the company, he said, don't tell the rest of the partners at that time, perhaps Martin, Richard, and Rick, because they'll just want more money.
So you had to keep it to yourself,
because they wanted 50%, keep it to myself. So I was going up, I thought, shall I tell them? But I couldn't, and I had a word and said, no, we can't do anything till April, so it's up to you whether you want to try and... I tried to persuade them, oh, don't, let's keep it going. I'm sure things get better. We don't have to necessarily go digital, because it's a fad. It was a fad. And we're like, proven right. But anyway, and I knew there was talent out there, and I could see I could see it again, because he knew the 10cc, I could see it all. But unfortunately, when it's 4 votes, you
were outvoted.
And that was it. So I thought, right, that's it.
So Nick Turnbull bought
Strawberry.
So he owned Yellow 2 and Strawberry.
Yes, which was a big mistake.
Well, within a couple of years he closed or sold it to LBS, who had been situated above.
Yeah.
And then he concentrated everything in here. Probably lasted another 3 or 4 years.
As long as that.
But no major hit records.
No.
So your association with Strawberry ended in '86 after 19, nearly 20 years. Yeah. So obviously that was a blow for you, a big blow, because you'd built up Strawberry, basically. Yeah. But if you look back at what you achieved and what was recorded here, probably for me 2 of the most iconic records ever. One was 10cc's I'm Not In Love, the single, which these days doesn't sound as groundbreaking as it did then, because obviously you can recreate those sounds digitally on samplers and things like that.
Good, but anyway.
But that technique for recording I'm Not In Love, when you actually hear how it was recorded, was amazing. Tell us a little bit about how you recorded I'm Not In Love.
Well, it was it was Kevin's idea for this choir.
So using voices instead of instruments.
Voices instead of instruments. The only instruments, they were electric piano. I think there's a guitar.
Gibson. The Gibson was on there.
Semi-acoustically.
Yeah.
Not many instruments. And so they had to do it. So you've got, let's say you've got 4 notes, A, B, C, D, right? So they all started singing A, then B, then C, then D. So A was recorded on tape, then C, all recorded like that. Then it all mixed together to make the chord.
So they had a tape with each note on, with the band just singing that note.
Right. So eventually, we made these into a loop. So when we got the chord, we made it into a loop, which ran right around the control room. Basically started off, we had 2 studio stereo machines and a mono machine. We started there, went right around the chord. Kevin was visualised on the left-hand side, holding, I don't know who he was holding to get the tape round. Graham was on that side, and we used the stands out of cymbals with the spoof that you get from tape recorders and the spoof that tape runs around on top. So I was on this side, and Lol was there, and Eric was in the middle, desperately trying to knock the tape on. The Eric was coming down, staring at the tape going down. See the Eric coming, don't knock it down. I couldn't have done that. He knew that he was, because he'd sang one of the notes, obviously. So he's rest it again, and he's standing there, and suddenly, my arm's going, don't move. And Lol was going, I can't hear my out. Or it went on, and got one done. Right, that's it. Right, and the next one, I'm thinking, oh my God, who cares? I'm serious.
So you had to do it for every note?
Every single note.
These massive tape loops going round the control room.
Round.
Building up a kind of choir of voices. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was done, and then it was mixed. And what happened was, because of the site goes ba 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 ba. Well, we didn't. Our faders weren't automated, obviously. So the idea was, let's put some masking tape over the top. So when you did that, you went so far with it. Trouble was masking tape bent in a bit, didn't it? Each time you did it, put some more masking tape in. It took a long time. I couldn't stand it when it finished. Because something's going around in your mind at night and all that. And I thought, and it was an album track. So why are you doing this for an album track? That's what it was.
Well, that was typical 10cc, wasn't it, really?
Oh, yeah. And then we sat there in the studio and we turned the lights down, playing it, and thinking, yeah. And then the classic was Big Boys Don't Cry. As I remember, the phone, was I in the control room? I think I was. Yeah, it was on top. I forget it was in.
They wanted something for the middle of the record, didn't they? They tried something and it didn't work.
Daft, something back.
Yeah.
And then, Eric was at the desk, and I was next. I don't know why I talking about something, right? And
Secretary Kathy
came in and she went, Eric, there's a message, there's a phone call for you. And Laura went, yes. And I went, what are you doing? He said, that's the voice, that's it. So he ran out that time, grabbed it, dragged her into the studio. I'm not doing that. And she just do it, stand in the mic, don't worry about anything.
So she had to whisper, Big Boys Don't Cry.
Don't cry, Big Boys Don't Cry. Is that all right? Yeah. That was it. And the number of phone calls I got after that. How do you do it? It's a mellotron. Was it this? We never told anybody ever how any of the sounds, not just on 10cc, but anything else was recreated on some of the echoes, especially Martin Hannett stuff with the lift up and down and Barclay James Harvest on the cellar step. Nothing was ever, we never told anybody how it was done, And can I tell the story about the Carpenters?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people in Stockport might appreciate it, I don't know whether, but when Paul McCartney was recording, the Carpenters were playing in Manchester. I got a phone call from Danny saying, is it all right, Paul? The Carpenters like to meet Paul, is it okay? I said, I would think so. I said, hang on, he's in the studio. I was in the control room. So I went to the studio and said, Paul, Carpenters, blah, blah, blah. They'd like any chance to come meet you? And it's up to you. He said, yeah, I don't mind, but not a lot of people. I said, no, I won't. So I went back, got the phone, and said, right, Danny, yeah, it's okay. Paul says, it's fine, I'm going to come down because we'll be finishing about 2:30, whatever. Right, I'll come down, and we might be a little bit late. It doesn't matter. Paul doesn't want a lot of people. And the guy said, well, just a minute, Richard wants a word. So I get the phone, I thought, who the hell is Richard? And this guy's talking to me, I thought, oh, American, oh, it's a compliment. He said, is it all right? I said, now, is it all right if my sister comes? I said, I think that'd be okay.
His sister being Karen Carpenter.
Karen Carpenter, yeah, it'd be okay. He said, right, we'll see you in half an hour. I said, fine. So they came with Karen, a boyfriend at the time, or husband, I don't know what, and the sound engineer who did all their recordings. Now, A&M, Carpenter's recordings were brilliant. We all loved them. They had fabulous harmony, fabulous recording. And this engineer was like business. It was all, and they also, they had the guitarist as well, Johnny Peluso, who was a brilliant guitarist. Eric really wanted to, you know, it was great. Paul was asking him a lot of questions, and Eric, they came in, I think Eric went, oh wow, you know. So the sound engineer came in, they were chatting, he says, can I ask you something? We're in the concert, he said, he had a drum sound on 10cc, he said, this snare drum sound, how did you get that sound? I looked at him and thought, there's this chief engineer from one of the best studios in America, probably, asking me, she was Stockport, how have we got a drum sound? Do I tell him, do I not? So I told him.
You did tell him, yeah.
And he went, that's brilliant, I never thought of doing that. We might use it, would you? I said, what you want. And basically it was reversed echo. And so simple.
You were helping the Carpenter's engineer?
Well, not really.
I wonder if he did use it.
He probably, I don't know, he might well have done. He thought he must use that. And I thought, wow, and that was probably one of the proudest moments of me. I thought, blimey. There's this, you know. I mean, he was a brilliant, I mean, you listen to any of the Carpenter's records, they're superbly engineered. And he got the best equipment ever you can buy.
Coming to you to ask you how you did it.
You did a drum sound.
Fantastic. So, I'm Not in Love, one iconic records recorded here in this building. Second one, Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures, which you've mentioned before, but regularly voted now in the top 10 albums of all time, recorded in this room in Stockport. So, I mean, if you just took those two records alone, you could say that Strawberry has kind of contributed so much to British music history, international music history. But when you start throwing in Neil Sedaka making his comeback, Barclay James Harvest, the Gizmo, I mean, 20 odd years of your life was, if you like, so iconic.
It was really, wasn't it?
So how do you look back now? Are you constantly amazed at the things you did? Yeah,
absolutely. And one thing that's amazing, you're talking about those albums, and one thing really, the Rolling Stone magazine in America, it's only a few years ago, not long ago, did an article, the top 10 albums to listen to before you die, one of those things. On one of them was a Mike McGear album. My Name was the Engineer. I was really chuffed about that. Anyway, that's another thing. So it went that far to America, you know. And what do I think about it? Well, it was a good idea at the time. I mean, my mother, right, it was a job, but a job I loved. Well, people didn't think it was a real job anyway. Mother didn't, because I was running home. I picked her up at the hospital once, running home, and I just got a new car. It was I forget which one, probably a Saab or something. Nice, very nice car. Driving home, and we're stopping outside the. I said, I've just got to nip in and get something. Punched you, got the bit out. Driving back, he said, do you know, I wish you'd got yourself a proper job. This is messing around with music. I'm driving home in this brand new Saab, I'm thinking, what? But that was what people thought at the time. That was, the proper job was engineering. That's what Eric was supposed to be, a draftsman. Hated it, you know. It wasn't real.
So looking back on your own life, do you think you did a proper job?
I think I did a proper job.
Good.
I hope so, but people seem to think.
And a fantastic job as well, because I think Stockport's got so much to be proud of. The fact of what you did, and we're grateful that you did it, definitely. And the town is starting to wake up to what you did.
Oh, wow.
The museum exhibition, the plaque. So we're very proud of you. So thank you very much for reliving some of those moments for us.
Yes.
Let's hope there's a book coming out very soon.
That'd be nice, a good idea.
It would be very good. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, thank you, Peter.